Welcome to Small Business Saturdays video series with your host and my husband.
And my dad, Aaron Montgomery.
Join the conversation.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Welcome into Small Business Saturdays. My name is Aaron Montgomery, and you can find me at our success group, doing everything I can to inspire people to build a foundation so they have a business that they love, and really excited about our conversation here today. So we're going to talk about what should I charge here today on Small Business Saturdays. And when people come into the OSG community, signing up for our newsletters or blogs or joining the groups, things like that, we always try to ask them a question. We try to get this information from everybody that we can, so it helps us understand how we can better support people and bring them to a place where they're really in love with their business instead of being stressed and overwhelmed and just feeling like they can never get there, underpaid a lot of times. And so we ask them, what is your number one challenge currently in your business? And 10% typically has to do, and we've got, at this point, so before I get, you might go, oh, well, 10% of what, Aaron, right? So at this point, we've got this question answered from about 3,000 people or so, approximately, based on the spreadsheet that I run and get this information from. And in doing kind of the math, about 10%, we try to categorize them down into, okay, what are the specific things that people are looking for here and needing help with, and what's the support that we could provide. And about 10% has to do with getting customers or kind of marketing, right? How do I get new business? How do I find my ideal customer? Things like that. And then 5% is like a mix of a bunch of different things, from just kind of random, a very specific thing to them, all the way to, learning the equipment. And it's a pretty random mix in this last 5%. But the interesting part that's always stood out to me, and I always think about this, like, how can we continue to help people? And I know we've built programs at our success group that really does help people get past this. But how do we inspire more people to participate in those programs, right? Because here's what the other 85% are challenged with. And I know you guys are going to catch this a little bit later. So this question is somewhat rhetorical, but if you guys have any guesses as to what the other 85% of those folks are challenged with out there. So you guys can put those in the comments, those of you that are tuned in live right now. But as you might guess, based on what we're talking about here today, it's what should I charge, right? How do I price my products? And here's the other part of this is what they forget, right? When people are out there thinking about how do I price my products, what should I charge, right? There you go, Jerry. Jerry's the winner. What to charge, right? Obviously, we're talking about it. I know it wasn't really set up well, but hey. So it's what do I charge? How do I price my products? And what they forget that is the crucial part of all this is how do I price my products for profit, right? That's the part that a lot of times we miss too, for profit, right? Profit is not a dirty word. And we, there you go, Jerry, I love it. We worry, right, that no one's going to pay the price that we put out there into the world. Maybe we worry that we're leaving money on the table. Maybe we're not charging enough. And therefore we're going to go out of business because right. So this is a common thing, right? And you can go on to any Facebook group out there that deals with small businesses, and you can find probably once a week at least, maybe more often, somebody asking, what should I charge? And then the sea of advice that comes after that, right? And so I've been doing this for about 23 years now, and I've seen some really bad advice, right? And it just gets repeated over and over because people share it so many times that it just becomes like, this is the way to do it. But nobody actually proves that this is the way to do it. Here we go. So somebody, I love this, Cindy. Thank you for sharing. She said, I saw a recent post somewhere that they were mad that people were charging less. There are so many factors involved in pricing. And that's it, Cindy, you just hit the nail on the head there. There are so many factors involved in pricing that going to a Facebook group to ask, what should I charge? And then using that as your pricing strategy is probably one of the quickest ways to start your downhill march to going out of business. Now, here's the big challenge. because our businesses are passions of ours, because we put so much effort into them. We're going to scratch, fight, and claw. And so we don't really realize that we're going out of business until it's too late. And we just get to that point where we just can't survive anymore, right? It's not that like, oh, yep, I'm starting to head in the wrong direction. And it's very clear for most of us, right? Because we don't have that foundation that gives us the information that we need to say, hey, something's not right here. I got to make a change. But if all you're doing is saying, well, that person's doing it because they are charging that, I'm going to charge that, right? Well, there's so many factors. Like Cindy said, there's so many factors involved in pricing that we can't oversimplify it, right? Pricing is a bit of an art form. Yes, we can make it a formula by using some numbers, but I can't tell you what your formula should be just by saying, well, this is what I charge. So we can't simplify it by multiplying a number or two, or copying from a neighbor, or just finding that lowest common denominator. So that's what I want to talk about here today. We're going to get into that. Now, for those of you who are tuned in live, I am going to have some visuals to go along with this. So if you're a visual learner, then great. For those of you that are listening to the podcast version of this, no problem. I'm going to walk through everything that you see that the people will see on screen. But if you do want to check out what it is that people are seeing as well, just head over to our YouTube page, and you can do that at liveosg.com. And that'll get you right to our YouTube page. In fact, we're trying to kind of figure out what to do with our YouTube page and how that works. And Barb shared here, absolutely, every business has their own situation. People asking what to charge on Facebook is one of my pet peeves. Know your business, right? Yeah. And I'm right there with you, Barb. Like at first glance, it really is like, I cringe, and it's a little bit of a pet peeve. But what I'm starting to learn is that it comes from this place of fear, right? And I get it, right? I've had fear in a lot of those things. So we just got to figure out, I feel like, people like Cindy and Barb and myself, and, there's been other people, we're starting to see that change, right? So it happens on the Facebook group. Somebody gets in there and shares the old common idea. And then some of us are kind of going, hold on a second. Let's talk about that a little bit more, right? So we're getting there. We just have to keep carrying that flag. And I'm hoping that by doing this today, that'll also give us some more tools that we can use to help people get to a point where, like Barb says, right, we know your business a little bit, right? We've got to get some confidence and clarity in our business. And, that's what I'm all about. So speaking of that, all right, let me hold on a second, Cindy. I'm going to. Okay, let's come back to this. So Cindy, I'm going to mark that. We're going to come back to your comment there because I want to keep myself on track. Otherwise, we'll be here all day, and I know you guys have things to do on your Saturday here. So I do too. Our grass looks like the jungle, so I got to mow today between rainstorms. So all right. So before we get into this, though, I am really excited. Cindy's actually already been a purchaser, but I do have the book out there. It is available. You can kind of see it above me if you're watching the live version. But I'm also really excited to share. My son said, "Hey, Dad, I want to help." Right? He wanted to help me, and I said, "Okay, well, I do need to have a little kind of quote unquote promotion for the book. Would you help me do it?" And he's like, "Sure." And the next thing I know, he's got a suit on. He's like all ready to go. I said, okay, I don't want to make you feel nervous, buddy. So you do this. And then he even figured out how to start doing some of the editing of it. And anyhow, I'm really proud of him. And then obviously I'm really proud of the book as well. So if you guys wouldn't mind me just sharing this real quick with you, and then we'll get into the more discussion about what should I charge. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Lewis Montgomery. I want to tell you all about my dad's new book, The Fundamentals of Business Success. He wrote it to help small business owners like you fall in love with your business.
Hey, thank you, Lewis. Yes, that's right. I was just tired of watching these small businesses be overwhelmed, just struggling, and ultimately underpaid because they just didn't have a strong foundation to build off of. They were trying to create their business the way somebody else created their business, and they were never going to catch up.
It's not just about making money. It's about having fun and building something you're truly passionate about. My dad's new book breaks down everything into a 13-step cycle with plenty of practical applications so you can start taking action right away. Grab your copy at OurSuccessGroup.com/FBS book. Whether you're just starting out or looking to spice things up in your current business, this book will become your guide. Don't miss out on your chance to get this book at the introductory price, only available at OurSuccessGroup.com/FBS book.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for all the comments in there. I am so lucky to have Lewis in my life. My two sons are just the world to me, and Lewis is just it's sometimes I feel a little in spite of me, right? But I've had a great partner in Kylene in raising Lewis, and so I'm super proud of him. Ready for it? Yeah, he was ready for it. And Jerry, love him in the promo. Thank you, Jerry. He's so professional in his presentation. Yeah. At school this year, so he's going into the 7th grade. At school this year, they decided to do pictures before school started when they went to go pick up their schedules. And it was interesting, I think some of the kids are still on summer break and whatnot. And he went in there, had his suit and tie on so he could take school pictures. And then we took off the tie and the jacket after the pictures were done. But some of the other kids were in there getting pictures. And I'm like, boy, they're still in their PJs, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm super glad that Lou doesn't feel weird about that, right? I think he had a little bit of that apprehension. I just said, hey, buddy, you know what? As long as you feel good, that's all that matters, right? They'll come along, the people that you want to be around, they'll step up. So he's surrounded himself with some really good friends that don't worry about what other people think too much, and I'm super proud of him. And all right, can I post a link in the comments, please? Yes, Jerry, I certainly will do that. Thank you for that reminder. Okay, so there it is in the comments. It should be on the Facebook page if you're over at Our Success Group, or if you're on YouTube there, Our Success, yeah, FBS book. So, all right, you guys, let me put this up on screen here for you. So like I said, we've got a little bit of a visual today for those that are tuned in live, but again, I will talk through it all for everybody that's listening on the podcast side of this. But again, we're talking about what should I charge, and here's what I want to make sure that I'm very clear on. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. Everybody's got a little different strategy. And so everybody that's in there trying to help and share, kudos to you, right? I'm not talking down to anybody that shared anything. I just want to ask questions. I just want to know more, right? So let's take it from that vantage point today. Let's question these things a little bit more, right? And I think that's something that we need to learn in general for our businesses. Can we question things just a smidge more? Okay, that sounds like good advice, but why? And that's not to say, well, that person doesn't know what they're talking about. That person isn't, right? These could be very successful business people. These are people we want to listen to. But I still want you to, even things that I'm telling you to question me as well. Well, why, Aaron? Okay, let's talk about that. The deeper we can go, the better we can get, right? Yeah, they didn't get the memo that was picture day. Yeah, they made it pretty clear. So if they didn't, okay. All right. So here we go. Let's dive into this. What should I charge now? As I think who shared that earlier? Let me go back up here. Just somebody said that they saw it on Facebook just recently. These are 2 recent comments within the last month or so. Like I said, I'm sure I could go with some very quick searching of any of the business groups that I'm a part of, and find questions very similar to this. And this, it doesn't matter what kind of business that you're in, right? So I'm also in some like coaching groups and author groups and things like that. Same questions happen there. So those of you that are in the decorators community going, oh, well, this is unique to us. Nope, not at all. This is across the board. Every small business owner has this question, but the way they're going about answering it, I think, is what the challenge is, right? Because you get into these Facebook groups, you start asking questions like sublimated coffee mugs, just double the price it cost me to make, ? Right? They're already setting themselves up for failure. Or what do I charge for a spinner, right? Or what do you charge for this mug? Or, right? And then the answers that you get, right? And so let me get to the click. And I don't know if you can see that on screen, but you've got some things like your cost times 2 equals wholesale, and then wholesale times 2 equals retail. Okay. And then the author of this particular comment said, oh yeah, so just double it. No problem. Thanks. Right. Because they had already, I almost messed up, so I don't want to give away who this is. They had already decided that they were kind of going to go double, but they were just trying to get somebody to say, yep, you've got this right. Good job. Go ahead. Right. And then we got another one that says double for wholesale and 4 times for retail, but be sure to include all your costs. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting a little closer, right? Now, what are all of your costs? And if we're doubling all of those costs, so how now I'm going to be selling a mug for $50, right? I know some people that if they took the cost of the mug and the costs of them operating their business, that it could be a $50 mug. Okay, if you can sell a $50 mug, awesome, go for it. But if you just use that formula, all right, we'll get into that, right? And then another one says a typical formula would be double your cost equals wholesale, double wholesale equals retail. So agreeing with the person up there. Right? And again, we do this, we go out and ask because we're not confident in our pricing, right? We want to make sure that we're not overpricing, which equates to losing out on potential business. And so that fear shows up for us. Or we want to make sure that we're not underpricing, where, that again, a fear that we're leaving money on the table, right? That, oh, well, I could have been making another $5 a piece on this, man. And that would have been the difference between success and failure, right? But we can't use this information as a basis for pricing, right? We're relying on averages, and without knowing your numbers, how much does it cost you to be in business and just open your doors each day, right? And here's the other thing people don't realize. Remember I said that we got to be pricing for profit, right? Well, part of that is you should be paying yourself in that number. You should be planning for future upgrades to your business. When you're out there, if you go out to one of the trade shows or you're looking for a new piece of equipment, if your business as an entity is not going to be paying for that, you're probably not ready for that upgrade yet, right? You're going to have to figure out another way. Now, can you go put it on your personal credit card? And yes, absolutely. And sometimes you need to make some investments as a business owner out of your own pocket. Yes. But as a business, you should be planning for those things and letting your business take care of those things. So we've got to get to that point where we're confident enough in our numbers that when we go, okay, this is what I'm going to charge, right? I can go to the Facebook groups and ask what people are charging for market research to understand, okay, what will the market kind of bear, right? So let me give you guys a quick story about this before we get too far away from it, because I learned, okay, so Jerry says, Aaron, what do you mean by an upgrade? So Jerry, that's a good question. Thank you. See, we want to question things. So when I'm talking about an upgrade, right? So maybe we, just our budget when we started our business, just didn't allow for anything more than the maybe the imported heat press that cost us $300, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? And so I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, I'm getting talked down to. That's where you had to start. Wherever you started, no problem. We got to get rid of all this judgment thing. But we also have to understand as business owners that we have to upgrade, right? If we really want to be in business, at some point we're going to have to upgrade and get a press that we can rely on, right? Maybe that printer with the third-party ink that I struggle with day in and day out because the colors drop out, I get head clogs, yada, 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 right? Maybe I need to upgrade. Or maybe I'm using a desktop printer right now and I'm ready to go to the 44-inch, right? Okay, that's an upgrade. So that's what I'm talking about when it comes to upgrade. Anything in our business where for me, every year I want to go look at the things inside of my business and go, okay, what needs to be upgraded? What can I get the most bang for my buck if I were to make an investment in either time or money to upgrade something? And so that's what an upgrade is. Yeah. So, all right, Cindy, I'm going to get both your comments here when we get to this section in a bit here. So let me tell you this quick story. One of the first companies that I was involved in when I got into this industry did a lot of things, but at one point we were selling direct-to-garment machines. We were one of the early people to sell direct-to-garment machines. And we went from 4 family members and 3 employees, 2 employees, something like that. I think I was like the 3rd or 4th employee that wasn't a family member at that stage in their business. We went from there to making the Inc. Magazine top 5,000 list, having 120 employees. And seemed like we were on top of the world. We were selling these direct-to-garment printers as fast as we could. I was responsible for all the dealer network, and I mean, I was filling containers with these things, getting orders that were like unfathomable from when I started, right? And this is in my 20s, by the way. So not only is this going really well for the company, it seemed it was going really well for me. I was still making a base salary of like, I think it was like $20,000 or $30,000 a year, which at that time was actually very good money plus commissions. So, and like the company, I didn't understand my expenses and, had a lot of fun and was young and single at the time. So anyhow, fast forward 2 years later, company's going out of business, right? Where it's failing. And, a lot of things came to bear to make that happen, from, faulty equipment, some egos getting in the way, some other things like that. But ultimately what the downfall is every time I sold a piece of equipment, I was actually putting the company at risk of failing because we were losing money every time because we did not know how much it cost us to sell those pieces of equipment. Right. And when you have 120 employees, guess what? Those 120 employees want to get paid every 2 weeks. So when you're about out of money, how do you go about getting some cash flow in to be able to pay the payroll? Well, you have a sale, right? So now we're losing even more money, right? But again, nobody knew how much it actually cost us to make. A company came in, bought us out. The first thing they did is figure out how much it actually cost us to make these things, realized that even without a sale, every time we sold one of those machines, we were losing about $500 at a time. And that didn't include any of the servicing, technical support issues, yada, yada, yada. Okay, now I know why they went out of business. So huge learning lesson for me. But again, not knowing what your numbers are, right? So if you don't know what your numbers are, you're gonna be struggling first and foremost. And then the other side of this is we also have to understand what people are willing to pay, right? What are people willing to pay? And then, yes, I love this. Barb says, I have different pricing, retail, commercial, school, sports. I have a military discount for military veterans, right? Cindy also says there's also a good customer price. When you have customers that spend $20K regularly with you, you have a different price for them, right? We have to understand what people are willing to pay. So once we understand how much we need to make, then we can figure out, okay, so the retail price is this, a commercial price, school, sports, military discount, good customers, right? All of those have to fit in what we need to make, but we also have to understand what people are willing to pay, right? And just because this is the other question or comment that I get a lot that, Barb, we were talking about pet peeves. It used to be a pretty big pet peeve of mine. Because I just felt like people were giving up, but I came to realize it's a great opportunity to explain something to them as, well, nobody in my town will pay that. Really? Okay. So riddle me this, right? So to speak, does anybody in your town have a pair of Nike shoes? Or does anybody in your town have a designer handbag? Because the reality is, those people that are not willing to pay what you charge for your product, for some reason, are willing to pay for something that is more expensive than what they could pay if they just went and got a regular pair of shoes, right? Go to the Target, the Walmart, the whatever, back in my day, Kmart, and you get a pair of shoes, right? As a kid, I had the knockoff shoes that had the Velcro on them, right? Because that's what we could afford at the time. That's what I got. and they were shoes, right? And the same thing with a handbag, right? I can go to again, Walmart, Target, wherever, and I can get just a regular bag that doesn't have a name brand on it. And right now there's a lot of reasons why the name brand is okay. It lasts longer. Yeah. But it's all perceived, right? The actual cost to make those two different products aren't very different, but it's all perceived. Right. So think about coffee, for example, right? Before Starbucks came around, if you spent more than $1 on a cup of coffee, you were crazy. Like I remember when the little donut shop that I used to go to with my dad some mornings, when they changed from giving you free coffee with your donuts to, if you didn't buy 6 donuts or whatever, it was 25 cents. I mean, in the town that I grew up in, and it's Prescott, Arizona, northern Arizona town at the time, was a pretty small town. I mean, there was outrage. I thought they were going to burn down the Dunkin' Donuts. So now a $5 cup of coffee, whatever. And there's 15,000 Starbucks in the US. So, right. So somebody is willing to pay that. I go to Dunkin' Donuts now and spend $5 on a cup of coffee. I got a medium coffee, regular coffee with cream and sugar the other day, and it was $3 for the regular one. I didn't get the latte caramel, which I love, by the way. I do love those sugary messes. But so thinking about this, right? So this is the first thing we got to understand is we got to rethink this, rethink where we go. And I'm going to get a little more into this stuff. But let me show you one other thing, because here's the positive side. I know that those of us that are understanding this, that are on board, that are kind of saying amen, right? We're making a difference. So keep going, please, because here's a comment that was made, and I'll show you, and I'll share another comment a little bit later that was made. That's, we're starting to get it. If we go back to, and I'll share that comment that just popped up, but let me go back. Right. Because we said double for wholesale and 4 times for retail, but they added, be sure to include all your costs. Right. So we're getting there. We're making strides. And then Talina said, I would recommend watching the video that Aaron did on the Condi open house. He has a very good comment in there about pricing, as well as many other tips to help you succeed. Right. So we're starting to get there. We're starting to share and go from there. So let me hit some of these comments that we've got from our live viewers here. Thank you guys so much for being here. This is awesome. I'm going to be bouncing around all over the place, so no worries. Hang on. Someone asked in a group I'm in, what brand of clothes did you wear when you were a kid? I wore Kmart brand. Yeah, the Kmart was awesome. I love going to Kmart. We also had a yellow front. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the yellow front. My grandfather used to make a pretty crude joke about yellow front. I'm going to leave it out of this, but if you want to hear it later, just think about yellow front as a company, and you go in to buy your underwear there. Okay, I'll leave it at that. All right. Let's see here. So Cindy, you had the comment earlier that I said I wanted to get to. Say embroidery. Already, I don't have to charge as much because my machine has been paid for years. That's just a little factor. My work as an experienced embroiderer is worth a lot of money. There you go. Charge what you're worth. Love it. Perfect. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Good stuff. And we can talk a little bit more about that when I get a little deeper into this. And yeah, we already got the good customer price and Barb's comment. Wonderful. Cool. Okay. I'm going to keep moving then. Okay. So there's the one thing. Good. Just going to the Facebook groups and asking, we got to rethink that strategy a little bit. The next strategy we have to rethink is, and I'm just going to click through some images here, right? The lowest price guarantee, the price match guarantee, the best price, I promise, right? Here's what's going to happen. If this is you, especially, okay, now this is for those of you that are in the decorating space, for sure, right? And I think a lot of the services out there, especially for small businesses, and I'll tell you why this can be a problem, but if your pricing strategy is to be the lowest priced guaranteed, guess what's going to happen? The person up the street might have a similar pricing strategy, and then they're going to be 5 cents cheaper. And then, oh, well, I guaranteed that I was going to be the lowest price, so I'm going to be 5 cents cheaper. Up, right? See, it becomes a spiral, right? And it just spirals. Who's willing to go to the bottom? Are your pockets deep enough to actually follow through on this best price guarantee? Because again, somebody else might have that same pricing strategy. And so what makes you confident that you can be the lowest price? Now, some people might be really super efficient at certain things, and it's okay to be the best value, the lowest price on a certain thing, but to just throw out this blanket comment of lowest price guarantee, here's what happens, right? And let me rephrase that. It's not here's what happens. Here's why I believe that people do this is because they lack creativity, they lack confidence, and what they're going to do is they're going to make the price the lowest common denominator, right? They don't believe that they bring anything else to the table, and so the customer's only decision is going to be based on price, right? Not that they love doing business with you, not because your products are quality, not because of the way you take care of them, not because of your unique strengths and abilities. You're going to make price the lowest common denominator. And when you make price the lowest common denominator, you become a commodity, right? And a commodity is really just who can be the cheapest, the most efficient, and who can have the deepest pockets, right? Buy at a cheap price, be able to turn things around cheaply, right? And somebody will always be able to do it for less, right? China, Cindy says you can't win against China, right? Yeah, they don't have the same labor practices that we do. And, nobody's demanding $20 an hour in China right now. It just isn't the way that it's going, right? And Michelle shared, I just redid my OSG spreadsheet with actual numbers through June and realized I needed to charge more going forward, right? And that's just it, right? Taking the time to do that. Michelle's pricing was perfect the way that it was. And then she found out information and she can make those decisions about where to charge, right? Okay, yep, got to raise things a little bit because, hey, we've all heard, we're those of you that are listening in live right now, we're sitting kind of at the start of the second half of 2023. And the word that's floating out there in popular culture everywhere right now is inflation, right? So that's a reality, right? It costs us more to get gas. It costs us more to do business. And so we have to understand, we have to keep our arms wrapped around that. But when we become the lowest price leader, that's when we start getting ourselves into some trouble. So, now let's keep going, right? Okay, so that's the next one. This is the third one, and it's kind of matched into the second one, but I want to go a little bit deeper into this whole 3x, 2x, 4x, whatever, right? And so this is just another post that was from a while back, but it allowed me an opportunity to kind of get more information. And so the person is basically asking, what should they charge for this job? It's 300 shirts, 100 long sleeve, 100 zip hoodies, all Bayside American made. I called and got a discount on the shirts, yada, yada, yada. And then here's the part that stood out to me, because they're just admitting, which is fine. This is good. I'm not, again, no judgment. There's no judgment for me in any way, shape, or form. I'm trying to help us understand how we can ask more questions and then build more confidence for our business here. But they said, I'm asking because I'm terrible at pricing and I want to make sure that I don't over or underprice, right? We talked about that at the beginning. That's the fear. We don't want to overprice. We don't want to underprice. And I'm terrible at pricing. Well, guess what? You just said that you're terrible at pricing. So yes, but if you go, you know what, I can figure this out. Who can support me, right? Rena just said OSG spreadsheet is definitely an eye opener, right? There are tools and people out there willing to help you, but you got to be willing to invest in yourself. And Todd, who helped me get our success group started and really thinking about this, he's got the right answer here. What's your numbers telling you? Do you know how long the job will take? Because then immediately after we got the 3X, right? All of a sudden 2X has become the new thing. I guess we're trying to go cheap, but here comes 3X, right? No, let's not do that, right? We already talked a little bit about that, but I went ahead and did the math. Like I said, I wanted to kind of go get some details. So I actually went out to some folks in our success group and I'll keep them nameless because this is personal information. But I said, hey, can you take a look at this job and just kind of tell me how you would go breaking it down based on what you've learned from our success group and the pricing program that we implement over there? And they were happy to do that. And so we've got two very separate businesses here that if they were to instead not have the OSG method and what we talk about in Fundamentals of Business Success book as well, if they were to just go with this, okay, well, somebody told me to 3X it, here's what would happen. Now, before I dive into that, though, I did see a comment here that I want to get to. Barb says, I believe in quality and service for my customers. Most of my business is still word of mouth. My pricing, I don't bicker on. I love that, Barb. Man, high five. That's super cool. And the fact that you've done the work to get yourself to a point where you feel confident in that and you can do that, hey, I don't haggle. It's okay. Nope, you're fine. Yeah. Doesn't work for you. Cool. Here's a guy up the street that probably will, give you cruddy products. And but I believe in that, right? And I'm here to service you. And when you're ready to come back because you're tired of that, cool, I'm here for you, right? So anyhow, really good job, Barb. Thank you for that. And Cindy says same here. And Barb says, Michelle, I have a pricing Excel sheet I review quarterly. Good. Awesome. Good. Okay. So like I said, I went to some OSG members. I said, okay, look at this question here and pretend that it was you and use your numbers and help me break this down. All right. So the first company, and let me also share one other thing. So we did find out from the person asking this question what they were paying for the shirts, and so kind of averages. So I'm making some assumptions here, and so I understand that, but just roll with me here, okay? So if we were to do the 3X thing, they said that the shirts were going to cost them $5.50. The transfers were going to cost them $3 a piece. So that total cost, based on this 3X thing, that total cost would mean that they need to charge $25.50 per shirt, right? And then times 300 shirts, that's $7,650. And then again, if you just take out that cost of $8.50, that means with only that information, you as a business are going, I'm making $5,000 in profit. Woohoo! Right? I mean, I get excited about $5,000 in profit. I don't, some of you guys, that might not be much to you, and that's cool. But I think to a lot of us, making $5,000 in profit in one job, I'm pretty stoked about that. Right? So cool. Then I'm going, well, why is my business still not getting where I want it to be? Why am I overwhelmed? Why am I stressed out? Why do I feel underpaid? Why can't I keep up with my bills? So let's take what we teach at our success group and take a look at it, right? So this is the first company. So again, understanding that we're pressing this in 3 locations, and we've got to inspect and package those jobs. And for this particular company, they estimated it would take them about 10 minutes per shirt. And this shop has done the work to understand that their cost to do business is $100 per hour just to be a business, right? And they also understand that they've got to plan for a little bit of spoilage for their particular shop and their efficiency. They're in about a 5% spoilage rate. And for any mess ups or, planning for samples, et cetera, inbound freight, packaging, they took all that into consideration. So we had that shirt and transfer costs from the original asker of the program. That was $8.50. When we take our $100 per hour, and we get $16.67 in cost. And then we have a spoilage of 43 cents that we got to put into each shirt. And we've got inbound freight and packaging of 60 cents. So their actual cost to create this shirt, just their cost is $26.20. Now, if they didn't know all that and they just went 3X their shirts and transfers, they would have charged $25.50, right? So now this particular company, they're actually, every time they take that order where they thought they were making $5,000 and they're super excited, they're actually losing $200. And how long as a business can you lose $200 per job and still manage, right? How deep into your personal bank account are you willing to go to figure out how to turn that around, right? So there's the first scenario. Now, the second scenario here is another company that does shirts a little more regularly and this type of work a little bit more regularly. And same thing, but for them, they've got their efficiency set up a little bit better where it only takes them 5 minutes per shirt because they've really worked on their workflow. And again, this is what they do on the regular. Now, they also are a little more efficient with their costs. Again, they're just a different business, right? One business isn't better than the others, just a different business. Same thing, 5% spoilage rate. They probably are being a little generous. Knowing them, they probably could go 3%, but they want to make sure that they're covered. Same factors, right? So for them, $8.50, $7.50 in pressing labor, same spoilage, same packaging, and their actual cost is $17.03, right? But if they didn't know all that information and they just went with the 3X thing, $25.50 is what they would charge. Now, this is where I make an assumption here, right? And just to show you what could potentially happen here. Now, let's just say that customer they've got a budget, but they didn't share it with you, right? They've got a budget and they're not able to go over this budget for whatever reason. And let's just say that budget was $21 a piece. And you come back and you say, well, it's $25.50. And, you're real confident in that Facebook user telling you that, you should just 3X it. And you're like, well, my price is $25.50. Sorry. Right. And 21 but yet you could have won the job at $21. Right. Well, now you've overpriced yourself out of a potential job, because if you would have charged a little bit over $17, right, you could have potentially made a profit, right? If you would have charged $21, that actually would have made that job still be a profit of almost or just over $1,100. So $1,191 profit if you sold those for $21, right? So we can very easily just take these simplified 3X, 2X, yada, yada. And because here's the other thing, if you'll go out there and look, right, everybody's got a little different variation on it. And we're going to talk a little bit about wholesale retail at the end here, and I'm going to get to that pretty quickly here. But why 2X? Why 4X, right? So if for whatever reason we just all decided 3X was the magic formula, and I come in, I'm going, you know what? I'm going to steal all this business. I'm going to get these people, right? I'm going to steal it all, right? So I'm going to go 2X. Yeah. Right? Or you come in and go, well, everybody else is charging 3X, man. I'm going to do quality and really good work. And so I'm going 4X. Why? Right? Because here's what we want to do. Here's the strategy we actually want to use. And here's the great part is this is actually extremely simple. It's just not easy to implement because we have to do a little bit of work. We have to know our numbers. We have to analyze the spreadsheets, right? We have to go back and review it quarterly or annually or whatever it is for your business. But market value based on your numbers, which is perceived value, right? Because as humans, we have very little ability to understand what something costs versus something else, right? Think about Toyota and Lexus, both made by the exact same company. Lexus is owned by Toyota, and Lexus is just their luxury model. Now, is it have a fewer, nicer features, maybe some cool trim, but yada, yada, yada. Yes, it is a little bit nicer. Is it that much more expensive to actually make a Lexus versus a Toyota of a similar size, right? No. Right. I mean, we can easily say that and understand that very well, but yet we're going to go buy the Lexus if that's what's important to us, right? Because we perceive that value, or we want to be perceived a certain way, right? Oh, I don't, maybe I've got this situation where I want to kind of look a little bit better in my friends and whatever. So I'm going to get the Lexus, not the Toyota, right? But maybe you're somebody that just doesn't care about that, right? I just want to get from point A to point B. So the Toyota's fine, right? So that's what perceived value is all about, right? So here's I said simple. So let's look at real simple here, okay? Market value is this. Your buyer is happy with the price that they paid. You, the seller, is happy with the price that you got. That's it. That is all you've got to do, right? Now, I know that's very simple, but it's not easy, right? Because we have to understand what the buyer would be happy with, right? What does the market bear? What are the possibilities? And then how can I increase that perceived value? Because if there isn't a market that would get the price that you need to make, then you've either got to create one or figure out how to bring your costs down, right? And bringing your costs down can be very difficult, especially in inflation. So you're better off trying to figure out how to change the perceived value of your product, right? Because your ideal customers are unique to you and you only. So what they're happy to make is only based on you and your business and your ideal customers. So that's why we have to rethink these strategies. So let me break down real quick, and then we'll get into the rest of the comments you guys got coming. That's awesome. Thank you for that, and keep them coming. But here's the deal. When we talk about the seller is happy with the price, we have to have that foundation first, right? We have to know our numbers. We have to, the spreadsheet. And this is what we teach inside of our success group. So I'm kind of giving you a little bit of the secret sauce here, which is fine, right? That's what we want to do. My whole intention with our success group is to just give you guys the foundation to build a business that you love. If you want to go deeper, you want a little more help, then we've got programs and we've got opportunities for you to become part of the actual community. If not, then I'm totally cool with that. If I helped you in some way and you came back and said, hey, you helped me in some way, Aaron, then that's all I need. That's my payment. So I want to give you some of this here and in the amount of time that we've got. So first thing we need to understand is what our overhead rate is. That's just, again, the cost of what it costs to just be in business. So to figure this out, we really just want to take all of our overhead, all of the things that we can't associate to an individual job, and kind of bring that together. That's what the spreadsheet's all about, kind of figuring that out. And we go into a lot more detail in there. And then you want to also add in there paying yourself. We also handle that inside of the OSG spreadsheet. And, again, some people go, oh, well, I'm not at a point I can't pay myself. I'm not saying to actually pay yourself. I'm saying to plan to pay yourself. Because if you don't plan to pay yourself now, you're not gonna just somehow magically be able to do it down the road. You've got to be planning to pay yourself. Now, you might quote unquote pay yourself by transferring some money into your personal account, and then right after that, reinvesting in your business and putting it right back into your business account. But you have to plan for that, right? So start getting in that habit, right? And then planning for the future. We talked about upgrades a little bit earlier, right? We got to think about, okay, what am I going to need next year? What am I going to need 3 years down the road? And how can I make sure that the business is paying for that, not my personal credit card, right? So that's the first thing. We have to understand the overhead rate. And then we have to understand how much time things take us, right? When it comes to time in small businesses, most of us, especially in the decorating world, might come from this being a side business, or maybe it was originally a hobby, right? We have a lot of passion for the making and the creating. And so we don't really think about the time. But when you decide that this is going to be a business that I need to be profitable with, you've got to change that mindset. You've got to switch from being kind of hobbyist. That doesn't mean that you can't go play and do some creating and things like that. But when you're making products for customers, you have to act like a race car pit crew. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, but it's worth mentioning. A race car pit crew is, I think, a perfect analogy for this, because they have to go as fast as they possibly can, because every second counts. And in our business, every second time is our most finite resource. So every second counts. But you also have to get it exactly right, because if they miss a lug nut, their driver has a potential of some pretty severe damage, maybe even death, right? Now, fortunately for us, it's only a t-shirt and nobody dies. But it can feel like that when we have a failure inside of our business, when we have to replace those 300 shirts because we screwed up because we were going too fast, right? So we have to find what it takes, but in the efficiency. And so we take our overhead rate, we divide it by the time, then we add in our direct costs. How much did the shirts cost us? How much did the mug cost us? How much did the actual printing process, right? Anything that you can directly tie. Now, embroidery is kind of an interesting thing. I know a lot of people that don't worry about the thread when it comes to their direct costs. They just put that in their overhead rate, right? But I also know some people that go, well, it's this many stitches, the thread costs this, and they have that in their direct cost. So whatever works for your business is fine. But the things that you can easily tie to that one particular job, right? Those are your direct costs. And that's going to include the blank. It's going to include your inbound freight. It's going to include anything that's easy to track. So we go overhead divided by time plus our direct costs plus our profit margin. And that is going to equal the price we need. That's the minimum price that we need to be charging, right? And I call that the required selling price. I don't want to go below that, right? Now, if it was a good customer, it's a job that's going to help you get off the schneid, so to speak. I don't know a better way to put that, but the profit margin is something you can play with a little bit, right? That's the art form, right? And so at the very minimum, though, you have overhead rate divided by time plus your direct costs. And if you sell there, you're already heading in the right direction, because you have these two things in here: paying yourself and planning for the future. If you add that into your overhead rate, now you've got your guardrails that no matter what, even if you're selling it quote unquote at cost, you're still heading in the right direction. Now, we want to start adding that profit margin, and we want to start increasing our market value, increasing the perceived value, things like that, to get us really to that required price. But then, so let's see how this would work. So if your overhead rate was $100 an hour, that includes paying yourself and planning for the future, you can make 50 of those things per hour. That means your overhead cost is $1. Let's say the direct costs are $4, and you want to make a 50% profit margin, which is $5, right? So there you go. $10 is what you should be charging. Now, you want to then review what your required selling price is versus what the market potential is. And here's the last bit of it. If the market potential, what will people actually pay for this based on some understanding of my ideal customers and what they're willing to pay? If that is greater than what your required selling price is, then you're in business. Go sell the product. Sell as many as you can. Scream it from the mountaintops and make sure everybody knows that you are selling that thing for that price. Right? Again, simple, but not easy. If it's not, nobody will pay that for that, but man, I need to get $10, but people are only willing to pay $7, $5, whatever, right? That's where we have to get to the other side of this, right? And understand that maybe it's location, maybe it's the market, maybe it's something different, right? This was floating around on Facebook for a while. Bottle of water, $1 at the gas station, $3 at a restaurant, $7 at the movie, $9 at the airport. It's the exact same bottle of water. The only difference is the location. So remember, the next time you feel undervalued, you might just be in the wrong place. You might just have the wrong potential market, right? So let's go ahead and wrap this up, because I did want to get and I'll get to that, Jerry, too. But so let's take a look at this, right? So this is what our spreadsheet looks like, somewhat, right? This is kind of the front end of it, and we put stuff in there. These are our direct costs in here: the raw cost, miscellaneous costs, freight in, decorating costs, other labor, packaging costs, and then how many items can you do per hour. And based on the fact that we know what our overhead rate is, then the spreadsheet's going to automatically, so anything that you see that's kind of highlighted in gray here is automatically calculated. So our labor and overhead comes into these numbers. Your defect or your spoilage rate here, 5% is a good place to start. As you get more efficient, you can measure that and come down a little bit. And then, how much does it cost you to ship it out? And then you get, this is our required selling price, the total production cost. And then we can start adding in some profit margin. And this is where the art form comes. And Jerry says, one point of confusion: is the profit margin usually a percentage? So that is a fantastic question, Jerry. I believe that it's easier to look at as a percentage, but as you'll see in the spreadsheet here, in the green part of the spreadsheet here, don't get too hung up on the percentage, because you might be looking at that job going, okay, if every time I make that shirt, it's like I'm printing a $5 bill, but yet my profit margin's only like 10%, but just because of the way that it is, it's actually $5 per shirt profit. Why would you say no to that? If that makes you feel good, if you're comfortable with that, again, we're covered. So as long as we're over this total product cost, we're covered. The profit margin is then how we make, this is how we go and buy our yacht or the villa, or we save the world, or we help our community, right? Give back to our employees, right? The profit margin is that, right? So we're getting paid in this. We're paying our employees in this, where, all that kind of stuff in the gray, in the total product cost. So the profit margin is what you need to be able to continue to move your business forward, right? Profit margin also is a nice little safety mechanism when things don't go well, right? So don't get too hung up on it being a percentage. I think it's easier to kind of look at as a percentage. So you kind of have a range, some people like 20, some people like 40, but we have to get beyond that. Let's just 3x something because all that is really a percentage. If we're just timesing it by 3, or we're taking a percentage and going by 3. So great question. Let's see here. Barb says, definitely know all the hidden costs you don't think of when pricing. One of the things I did was go through each one of my processes and figure out the time, including steps between machines. Absolutely. Right. This is awesome. So Barb, yeah, that's exactly what we're teaching inside our success group, right? How do we get more efficient? How do we find those hidden costs? How do we make marginal gains, is what I call them. How do we make little improvements each day? So that's awesome. All right. As I add equipment, I usually end up reconfiguring my work layout for better production. These factors affect pricing. 100% they do. All right. And then Jerry says, thanks. That makes perfect sense. We figured out a percentage. Just curious. Yeah. Like I said, I like the percentage because it's more quick to kind of get that range. But then I also look at it and go, okay, right. So this, like on what we're seeing on screen here, this one's 48%. And I'm making $4.86. Okay. Yeah. This one's 65%, but I'm making $13, right? So maybe I can get that one down to 30% and still be pretty happy, right? But the market's willing to pay $32 for that. And it just so happens that I'm really good at 5x8 plaques or whatever, right? And so like you'll see one down here, 20%, right? Only making $2.30, but I can crank out those t-shirts. I'm getting, 500 piece orders. And so, right. So don't kind of let that percentage of profit hold you back from making a successful business. It's almost like if you were to just hold fast to, I've always got to be 30% profit margin, that you take that and that you put your flag in the ground for that, and you're never going to budge off of that. You might be winning that battle, but you could be losing the overall war, right? Does that make sense? So don't get too hung up on it. That's where the art form, that's where knowing your customers comes into play here, is when we get into that profit margin side of things. So great question. Thank you so much. All right. The last thing that I wanted to cover, and I know this has been a long one, but obviously this is something that we're all very passionate about. And so I appreciate you guys that are tuned in live being here talking about retail versus wholesale. Here's the thing that I think also gets lost, where we don't ask enough questions, right? Because if I go all the way back, and I'll see if I can find it real quick here. If I go all the way back here, and right, your cost is ×2 of wholesale. Wholesale is ×2 retail, right? Or double wholesale. Here's the problem with this thinking. For whatever reason, we've got this idea in our head, to be successful business owners, we have to have a wholesale price, because somebody came to me and said, I need a wholesale price. Okay, I get it, right? But let's think through that for a second. When we're pricing our products, when we're selling a product, here is what is happening. We are providing a service, providing something of value in exchange for something else of value, right? Now, in a small business, we hope that that thing in exchange of value is money, right? So we provide a service that's of value, and they provide us money that's of value to us. So there's that exchange. And that goes back to the simplicity of buyer is happy, seller is happy, right? Very simple. We start talking about wholesale and we think that there's some reason that we have to have a wholesale price. But my argument is this: charge what you need to charge, making sure you leave yourself room in there for some of the things. And I'll scroll back here if I can find some of them real quick, right? Cindy's good customer price, Barb's retail, commercial, school sports teams, military discount, right? Leaving room for those things, but ultimately understanding there has to be some exchange of value, right? So good customer, the value that they're bringing to us is that we can count on them. We know that they're going to show up. They're going to keep our business going through the slower times where we're not getting new business. So they're giving us some extra value. So in return, we're going to reduce the price a little bit so they feel happy too, right? Or Barb, what was yours again? Shoot, yeah, I lost it. Lost the comment. I scrolled too far. Okay, so retail, commercial, right? Okay, well, retail customers are going to come in and they're going to probably need some more hand holding. They're probably going to need some help with design, right? But maybe a commercial customer, you're going to say, okay, cool, I'll give you a better price because you're going to give me something that's print ready. If you give me something that's print ready, your price would be this. If I have to do the artwork, if I have to, walk you through the process, your price is this, right? Or school or sports teams, right? Okay, yeah, that makes for a bigger order, so I can buy more blank products at one time and get a little bit better price. So don't just throw out a wholesale price for the sake of wholesale pricing. What is the exchange of value that your customers have to get those better tiers of pricing, right? Well, what are they doing for you? And again, don't get hung up in the fact that it's a money thing. We get too stuck in the money thing. Value is not cost, right? Value has nothing to do with cost. Value is a completely different thing. We can exchange things that don't include money at all, and there can be value, right? So value of knowing that you've got a regular business, value of making it easier and more efficient for you to do your job, value of a bigger order so you can be more efficient, right? Doing one-offs of a bunch of different things is never going to be as efficient as doing hundreds of thousands of the exact same thing over and over again. You get really good at it once you get into the flow, right? So that's the other thing that I think people sometimes get, where again, if we're just going right to the Facebook groups and saying, oh, here's the formula, why are you giving a wholesale price? And let me be really clear, I am not against giving a wholesale price. I've been involved in some businesses that do print on demand or do wholesale stuff and has been very successful, and I love it. But there was always okay, if you want a retail style experience, here's your price. If you're able to send us all this and we don't have to, right, we can be more efficient, and we know you're going to be a regular customer, right? We had pricing tiers. And once you kind of got over a certain level, your tier got better, right? I mean, we had pricing tiers, and we would make decisions based on how big of a pain in the butt was the customer, right? Were they nice and friendly and acted like a partner? Okay, well, guess what? You get a little bit better tier. So because we can more easily work together, and I leave at the end of the day happy and fulfilled. You customer that is kind of a pain in the butt and just wants to beat me up all the time and is kind of a jerk, and I leave at the end of the day going, why am I doing this? Right? Guess what? I'm doing this because I'm making a little bit more money off of you. So there's another reason to treat your vendors with some respect, because hey, you might get better pricing that way. So anyhow, all right. Let's see here. What do we got here? Jerry says, thanks. That makes perfect sense. We figure out a percentage. Yep. Okay. I already covered that one. Sorry. This is such valuable information. Like y'all say, you must reevaluate regularly. Price increases nowadays can be daily. That's the world we live in, guys. But you know what? Everybody lives in that. I thought I saw this kind of off topic, but kind of on topic. So run with me for a second. I was looking for a hotel for our family reunion we were at last weekend. And one of the things I always do when I look at a hotel is I just go through and look at the comments, the reviews, because I want to understand kind of what I'm walking into here, right? And a lot of times some of the reviews I look at and they might be a bad review, and I read it and then I go, oh, well, they're just that person that. So sometimes I'm like, I'm going to stay there, because the reply that they had to that bad review was actually, they actually cared, right? So, even if something does go wrong, the hotel is going to step up. Well, there was one person, a guy actually, that was complaining about how expensive hotels have gotten, right? And I get it. I'm like, wow, we were staying at a little kind of not so, what I would consider a lower grade hotel. And, it was $200 a night, right? Which last year, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, whatever, would have probably been less than $100 a night for that hotel room. And he was complaining about how expensive it was and how under what you were getting for the money. And the only thing I could think of was, I wonder who that person works for, right? Because my guess is whoever that person works for, or maybe they have their own company, my guess is they've raised their prices too. They've had to. We've all had to keep up. But at some point, we're gonna have to figure it out, right? And something's gonna have to change. But price increases are just a fact of life. So appreciate you sharing that, Cindy. I totally agree with Cindy. Aaron is becoming like E.F. Hutton. I love that. Thank you, Jerry. I might clip that if you don't mind. I like that. Our business is mainly wholesale. It if you mean the customer is a resale. Yeah. Yeah. But Cindy, I think, you understand it, right? You understand the value that you're getting back from your customers. You're not having to spend money on marketing, for example, right? You don't have to go out and get that retail customer. You're allowing that wholesale customer to do the marketing. And so there's some savings and some efficiency and some value for you, right? So wholesale doesn't mean cheap. That's also another really good point. We have the stupid idiot tax. I love that. Vocabulary line items, Cindy. I love it. Valuable line items, Cindy Jerry says. Okay. Off topic. When doing a review on hotels, you need not mention every single insect you encounter. Saying it was insect infested is sufficient. The rest is just gross. Agreed, Cindy. I like to just not think about that. All right, good. All right. Well, that's what I've got for you guys today. If anybody's out there wants more help with pricing, I'd be more than happy to have you join us inside of our success group. We have some wonderful opportunities to know your overhead, pricing with profit. We talked about getting your workflow and organization, right? And whatnot. So just go to osg.link/yes, and that'll take you to our membership page if you want to check that out. So thank you, Jerry. I may indeed quote you. I love it. I love it. All right, you guys. Well, I'm going to take that off of the screen here. We'll get back here. That's what I've got for you guys today. Now, the last thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about before I kind of close out for the day is I need your help. I need new ideas. I need some ways, right? I love that you guys are regularly tuning in. I appreciate it. I've been trying all sorts of different times during the day on Saturday, trying everything that I can think of. But I need more, right? We need more people here. We need to, if this is valuable information, how do we get it in front of more people? And so I've got to make some changes. I got to shake it up a little bit. And I know part of the challenge might be, oh, thanks, Jerry. I appreciate you purchasing the book. I love that. Cindy's also a book purchaser. So you'll get a little special something too, Jerry. So thank you guys, the early adopters. We take care of our early adopters. All right. I know part of the challenge is most of the time, Small Business Saturdays, we're over an hour. And so that's a big time commitment, so I'm thinking about how do we break this up into smaller bits and pieces, some things like that. Whatever ideas or thoughts or comments or suggestions that you guys have. I'm going to put one more kind of cover on here so you guys can see it. ConsultAaron.com is the way to reach out to me. If you want to, feel free to put things in the comments for sure. If you don't mind it being out in public, but if you want to reach out to me directly where it's just a conversation between you and I, go to ConsultAaron.com and just tell me what would make Small Business Saturday more valuable for you and potentially bring in other people. Just need to keep, again, evaluating things like we talked about and how do we move forward. So next Saturday, we are going to be away. So there won't be a Small Business Saturday next Saturday. The Saturday after that, we will have another Small Business Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time. So we'll be back for that. And then September 2nd is going to be the last Small Business Saturdays in this incarnation as we've been doing it, right? So somehow, some way, I'm going to make some changes. Kylene and I were talking about how we kind of work together a little bit more. Maybe Thankful Thursday is part of this, but on a Saturday. I don't know if you guys have ever watched a Lego movie, but they talk about Taco Tuesday, but on a Thursday, right? So maybe it's Thankful Thursday, but on a Saturday, or maybe it's Small Business Saturdays, but on a Thursday. I don't know. We're bouncing around a whole lot of ideas, and how we make it more valuable, how we make it to where, there's an exchange of value for everybody. And so if you have ideas, we're always open for feedback, and I appreciate you guys being a part of this conversation with me. All right. And, oh, shoot. See, I didn't even think about that. This is where the feedback comes in. All right. So maybe I need to switch. I forgot Ramona was at 10. I don't want to be on top of Ramona. You're right. So, is because I tried noon for a while and nobody was showing up for that. Right. So maybe people are already in the middle of their day, but I tried earlier and people on the West Coast weren't getting there. So if there's a time, 1, okay. Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you, Jerry. Yep. I will put that in there too. 1 o'clock. Okay. I wrote that down, Cindy. Thank you. And yep. Give me 1 second here. Typing and This is where Kylie and I need to work together so we can both produce while each other one is talking. Eric, I'm sure, would come produce for me, but man, that poor guy already does way too much for me. So, all right, there we go. All right, perfect. That's what I got. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you so much for your feedback already. And Ramona's only 30 minutes usually. All right. Well, you guys think I could talk for 30 minutes, not without making it like the half. So we'll see. I get too excited about this stuff. There's too much to share. Yeah, I never know what my Saturday schedule is. Yeah, and that can be a little bit, because that's going to be the other challenge for me. After September 2nd, I get back to coaching volleyball, and there's a lot of Saturday stuff going on there. So I'm excited to get back to coaching more on a full-time basis. So it's always been a passion of mine. And after getting the book done, I feel like I'm ready to go back to that. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. And you could be at 10:30. Yeah, okay. I'll get with Ramona too. That's a really good point. So sorry, Ramona. All right, perfect. You guys, excellent. Thank you so much for your wonderful comments, wonderful feedback, and congratulations to you guys too. Barb, Cindy, Michelle, Jerry, all of you guys that jumped in here today. You guys are doing amazing stuff. So congratulations. Round of applause for you guys. And I will look forward to talking to you guys in 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about nailing your niche next week. I met a young lady who started a decorating business here in St. Louis, and we sat down and had a chat about, she was having a hard time figuring out what her niche was. And so we talked through some things that worked for her. And so I want to share that with you guys. So that'll be in 2 weeks from now. Right now it's scheduled at 10, but I am going to reschedule that. So stay tuned. Just keep your eyes peeled over at Live OSG or at our Facebook page, our Success Group Facebook page. Okay. All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your Saturday, and I will talk to you all very soon.